Hi class, my name is Lee Dixon Henderson. This is my rebuttal to Thomas Moreno, who argued that states should not surrender their sovereignty and comply with human rights. So I'm going to start off my rebuttal with this. Human rights and international humanitarian law may have some strong connections, but they are not necessarily two in the same. So international humanitarian law is alternatively known as the laws of armed conflict, and it's there to try and humanly regulate conduct of war. So, in respect of sovereignty, I think there were some very good points made. Sometimes you can't trust the bigger powers. Sometimes they may act in ways that kind of suppress the smaller voices, or the voices that don't have as much clout behind them on that or in that international podium. That said, humanitarian law being connected to conflict is essential. It is there to defend life, to defend the injured, to defend the sick. It is also there to make sure that atrocities such as genocide do not occur, that when two countries or countries of some sort of territories are in conflict, that those caught up in the middle are not afflicted, or the damage caused to them is limited. So international humanitarian law doesn't just cover the individual, it covers property. It has also expanded to be specific when it comes to children, especially children being incorporated into war or afflicted by war, chemical warfare. I think when we look at the bigger picture of this, it's reprehensible to even think that a country would not want to surrender. It's not even surrendering, would not want to delegate their sovereignty or forgo a portion of their sovereignty that would defend against these things, that would empower an international organization to defend against these things, to provide support in respect to these matters. There is already one that's heavily used, I think. I can't remember if it's commission or committee, but it's the International Committee, I believe, of the Red Cross, who are already heavily involved in these things. So is the UN. A lot of this humanitarian law derives from Geneva, I think the Fourth Geneva Conventions, and is also kind of enforced through the UN, the Security Council. There's been some key situations where it's been implemented. For instance, Article 38, which was formed part of the Committee on the Rights of Children. But in practical examples, in Yugoslavia, it led towards the creation of an international tribunal after there was mass killings or arguably genocide committed in that conflict. So ultimately, when we're talking about humanitarian law, we're talking about war. We're talking about things that nobody ultimately wants to enter into or wants to be subject to. So it is a universal matter. It's a universal affliction. It has universal effects. So my opinion would be we should be willing to forgo sovereignty in these respects. Forgoing sovereignty does not mean forgoing any cultural or social elements. It just means that you're standing by the right to life, the right to defense from war, the right to not see children incorporated, the right to not see chemical warfare utilized. It covers some pretty critical areas, some critical afflictions that can transpire in war when it is not regulated. And there are many people that are signed up, many countries, that are signed up to the Fourth Geneva Conventions. I think there was only a handful that are not. It has definitely been put into action, and it has been used to convict those that have breached international humanitarian law. So it has been effective. Of course, you have ontology and discourse, and this idea that so Yugoslavia broke up, of course. Now you have Serbia. Serbia may not see things in the same way Kosovo might, but to me, it's a transparency issue because there was still mass slaughterings, rapes, murdering of children that occurred in Kosovo. So it doesn't really matter about the ontological aspects of it. It still transpired, and international humanitarian law is there to defend and prevent these things from occurring, but also to provide a recourse if it happens, so that these voices are not lost amongst these conflicts. So, contrary to what you argued, I do believe we should surrender sovereignty and comply with international humanitarian law. If we are to extend on that and start getting to human rights laws, I know there was another debate where somebody was talking about same-sex marriage. This is a different topic from the purpose of international humanitarian law. So I really appreciate your debate. I think you have really good points, and it is good to point out that trying to get every country to agree and the necessity for every country to agree is critical. But I think what international humanitarian law is there to defend against and prevent is unequivocally universal, and we should be willing to surrender sovereignty. Thank you.